Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday Morning Joe and Joe Weather Show on the 13th of June, 2021. Joe Rayo on my left. I'm Joe Chaffee. And the Sunday Morning Joe and Joe Weather Show, much like every Joe and Joe Weather Show, is brought to you by our friends at Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York on Long Island. A local business taking care of your hardware needs, and they have lots of supplies when it comes to getting ready for hurricane season, emergency preparedness supplies, generators, gasoline, gas cans, pumps, and all the rest of it. So head over there. They're a local business, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. Wholesale holiday lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist. Christmas is only 6 months away, folks. They will meet all your decorating needs, whether you want to have your home decorated or maybe you want to do this as a side business. Give them a call. They're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York, right next door to West Babylon, 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. So I lost power yesterday for the 5th time this week, so that was fun. Only for a couple of hours, but you know when you got a pot of sauce cooking on the stove, you don't want to lose your power at that sort of critical point. That critical point.
I understand.
And oddly enough, every single time it's happened, whatever thunderstorm's been going on, I've only would be just barely in it. Maybe I would hear a little bit of thunder. I wouldn't see any lightning, and it would pour down rain for about 10 minutes, and then it would be done. So it's not like I'm sitting here experiencing some vicious thunderstorm, but something's going on wherever. Because my bet is it's probably the same issue every day. Every time we've lost power this week, and hopefully it's not going to happen today because I am in the land of deep blue sky and sunshine today.
And we have up here, I guess you could use the term muddled. I mean, there will be periods today where we have relatively nice skies. I woke up to bright sunshine. Now it's kind of cloudyish out there. There might be some wet weather coming our way before the end of the afternoon. We have some wetness in the forecast for tomorrow. Things really are not going to come together in terms of very lovely, dry, pleasant conditions around here, Joe, until about Tuesday into Wednesday we get a cold front pass through here. A nice dome of high pressure is going to build in. And really, as we move into the middle and latter part of the week, probably about as nice a weather pattern as you could ever hope for in the month of June. But before we get that, again, as I mentioned, a little muddled with some instability, some showers scattered about, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. What struck me with this next high coming down is those fabulous dew points in the 40s. For Wednesday and Thursday. I find that quite nice, obviously, but it's also in the back of your mind that how much longer are we going to be able to see these dry big highs come down? How much longer are we going to be able to keep the amplitude in the pattern that is allowing for these air masses to come down to the southeast? I mean, we're getting 3 cold fronts, basically 3 cold fronts, one today, one tomorrow night, another one next Saturday, in 1 week, which you kind of would be, if it was the winter time or the fall or the mid to late fall or early spring, you'd say, okay, that's pretty much par for the course. But to see 3 cold fronts in 1 week during the month of June is a little unusual.
Quite unusual for June, even more so for July and August. And in fact, you and I remember, Joe, way back in our early days in this game, and even before, like in the early 70s or in the late 60s or whatever, you sometimes in the summertime, you would dream, you'd go to bed dreaming of just one single cold front to come in and break the back of a wave of humidity or heat. And you'd go like days, 5, 6, 7 days of either oppressive humidity and high levels of heat. And then you have the cold front move by. it drops everything down for a few days and becomes comfortable. Then all of a sudden, it goes right back into the same hot, sticky, humid pattern. So yeah, you're right. To have three of these fronts reinforcing shots of the cooler, drier air, the low dew point air to come in at this time of the year is anomalous. And again, I really should be more specific. I keep mentioning about 10 or 12 years ago, there was what I refer to as the Garden of Eden summer, where we had a whole summer of these kind of fronts, and a
Right.
whole summer where we had lovely weather like this. And I said, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could have one of these kind of summers? Well, maybe after a decade or so, not seeing that, maybe this is going to be one of those summers that we'll finally have that. In spite of the fact, I might add, that we already had just a week or so ago, we were in the throes of a stretch of 4, 5, 6 days of oppressive heat and humidity, which was very unusual for the early to middle part of June. And your thought processes were saying, "Oh my God, are we going to have one of those summers where it's going to be constantly hot and humid?" Now we're into this. Well, maybe we just have to balance it out between waves of unseasonably cool and dry, pleasant weather to those occasional periods of heat and humidity. I don't know, but it's still early in the ball game. And summer is now less than a week away. Well, it is a
Well,
week away. It's
calendar
next Sunday.
summers. I know calendar summers.
Astronomical summers.
Astronomical
Yeah.
summer. Every once in a while, you'll get somebody that'll just kind of jump on the fact that it doesn't start until this particular date. Look, the bottom line in my mind is that since we're kind of weather is not driven by these magical dates that come along. Okay, weather is driven by the variability of the atmosphere. And the one thing we can look at least, is statistically, when you look at numbers over the course, over the long haul, the warmest 3 calendar months, just to keep it neat, are, if you wanted to divide everything into exact 3-month segments, the warmest calendar months are June, July, and August. So June is a summer month to me. May is a spring month. March is a spring month to me. Okay, I think the one month that you could have issues with, only because of the fact that we've had this tendency for summer to kind of extend itself into the month of September, and sometimes maybe even into the early part of October, but that the rest of the month of October usually takes care of that. But the first, September, that first part of September is maybe where there might be room for a debate, but the rest of it, no.
Ernie Harwell, who was a Hall of Fame announcer, he spent something like 40 or 50 years announcing Detroit Tiger games. When he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, he read something that about his thoughts about baseball, and one of those things that he mentioned was an old man. In other words, a ball player who reached the age of 35, and that old man, that 35-year-old ball player, wondering whether or not he was going to be able to get through another hot, sweltering August and September. He didn't say July and August. He said August and September. So I guess in Ernie Harwell's mind, September is indeed more of a summer month than a fall month. But you're right. It could be a coin toss. There's some Septembers that have been very hot, and some that can be quite cool and quite delightful. In fact, and my wife, who's on the chat board, will remember this. In September of 1983, Joe, 1 year before we were going to get married, we started looking for halls to have our wedding reception at. And it was the first week of September. And I got to tell you, it was absolutely blistering hot. I mean, it was like 90 plus degrees for several days on end. And we were going to these catering halls, in our shorts and short sleeves or whatever. And I remember one of the people behind the desk at one of these catering halls said, "And so why did you choose this particular time of the year?" And I said, "We chose it because we knew that September's nice and cool." And here we go with sweat dripping off of our forehead. So yeah, September's a crazy month sometimes.
Yeah, I went to a wedding once where they got married on it was like July 30th, if I recall, and it must have been every bit of 94 or 5 out. It was not a pleasant experience.
Was it an outdoor wedding?
Part of it was outdoors.
Ow. Ooh.
Okay. like the picture taking and all the rest of it. That I was, they took pictures. It was a family wedding, and it was anyway. Joe, would you do me a favor? I am
Yes.
going to put up the satellite. Okay. JJ doesn't seem to be feeling well right now. He seems to have upchucked a few things. So I'm going.
Oh dear.
It'll be a short. It won't take me long. But let me just check him out, and I don't know if he ate something. We went down to the lake. We went down to the pond. Sometimes you know what dogs do. So anyhow, hang on one second. I will be right back. But I put up the U.S. satellite, and let me go take care of the baby.
Okay. Well, as you
JJ,
can
what's
see
that?
on our satellite loop, the one thing that immediately strikes your attention, I'm sure, is the lack of any significant cloud cover over the central and most of the western part of the country. Now, we do have a weather system that's coming in off the Pacific coast and probably bringing some cloud and some wet weather to parts of Washington state. But that is to be expected. Although actually not, because if you live out in the Pacific Northwest, and especially during the winter months, it more often than not is just cloudy and dreary and showery. But in the month of June, June is a rather dry month in Washington usually, and in fact, I believe Portland, Oregon, in June has a rose festival. It's very lovely and dry, so this may be actually a little anomalous for them to see a surge of moisture coming in off the Pacific like this. But again, most of the West is nice and dry, and we here in the East have, as Joe mentioned, a couple of fronts that we're going to be dealing with these next few days. You can see some clouds and also a bit of instability that's going to eventually lead to a buildup of perhaps some scattered showers later in the day and this evening. And again, more showery weather possible for the start of your week on Monday. Are you back, Mr. Giaffi? No, he's not. Oh, I thought he was. All right. So in general, we are looking for some nice weather later on in the week. A large mass of dry, pleasant air building down from Canada. Joe mentioned, of course, the dew points, which are affiliated with that dry air mass, are generally in the 40s, which is something that does not often happen for a protracted or prolonged length of time in the month of June in our part of the country. But we'll be enjoying that. Again, we'll have to wait until the final front of the series will be moving on through. We have a little storm Tuesday that might be off of the mid-Atlantic coast, a cold front dropping on down into upstate New York. So that'll provide us with some showers. And once all that is out of the way, high pressure and control for Wednesday, for Thursday, for Friday, and even perhaps into the start of the upcoming weekend on Saturday.
I'm back.
Oh, yes.
Now, only on this show could you have, an hour-long weathercast and just have the host walk away to clean up some, dog vomit. I mean, where else? Where else on television could you find such art? By the way, did you notice on the satellite? And I was thinking about this. This is a weird time of year. This is a time of year for like weird things to occur on the satellite. The other day we had that big donut in the Southwest.
The big donut hole,
Right.
yeah.
I found it this morning. There's two. There's this little twisting up. I guess it's an upper low that is moving in through western Oklahoma. It's just very small. I don't know if you picked up on that on the satellite. And also, there's rotation. Some kind of upper low that's sitting off the North Carolina, South Carolina coastline. And I mentioned that because I'm up on the northwestern fringe of that cloud line that's in northern Georgia, which is where I am. I have to tell you something. I discovered this morning. I was actually quite surprised. So last night I was out sitting on my screened-in porch, and suddenly I felt this very cool and dryish feeling breeze. And I thought, oh, this is nice. I mean, certainly the temperatures must have fell into the 60s when that happened. I said, oh, this feels really good. And this morning I went outside, and I have to tell you, it felt comfortable, delightful, lovely. Temperature was probably around 70 or 71. And then I looked at the dew point. I checked the local airport here, which is about 10 miles from where I am. The dew points up here are up all around 70 right now. But in terms of how it feels outside, I have to tell you, it was not that uncomfortable. It really wasn't. And I think I've always said this, when you're down south, and especially when you're in Florida, that those 70 dew point humidity days, which are every day, from mid June to mid September, they just don't have the same feel as the humidity. They just don't feel as bad to me as the humidity does in the Northeast and in the Great Lakes and up in the Mid Atlantic states.
Well,
Maybe you would disagree with me, but I really do think it's different here.
well, I think it's because you're becoming acclimated to. You just said it yourself, Joe. I mean, every day it's like 70. So even if you have a little bit of a dip of a couple of degrees and you have a dew point in the upper 60s, which is still, for us up here, a fairly humid stretch. I mean, you actually may feel that little bit of a drop. You say, hey, it's not so bad out there today. You do get used to it, and so, and I know I have friends. I have one friend who lives in Boynton Beach, Florida, and every now and then when he does come north, and it might be a dew point of like 60 or 61 here, which again we're saying, oh, it's a bit muggy out there. He comes back into that, and he says, oh, it's lovely. Oh, feels so good out there. So I guess it's the matter of the way man and woman acclimate themselves to a specific type of climate, and maybe you're becoming an old Southerner down there and getting used to all of this kind of stuff.
No, well, let me. I'm already long gotten used to the absolute lack of traffic, which is wonderful. A couple other things on the satellite happening. I just want to point out, much of the country today is not seeing anything in terms of weather, other than dry weather and sunshine. We do have in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico disturbed weather that the Hurricane Center, and we've been kind of having this on and off. It came up from the Caribbean, the Southwest Caribbean. Now it's moved into the Southwest Gulf. It does appear that this is probably going to become a tropical depression and perhaps even a tropical storm. Judging from the overall pattern, I mean, I'm just going to kind of take this early view here. It's Sunday. We're talking about something that's probably not going to develop until the latter part of, late this week, or certainly not for the next couple of days, but perhaps late this week, going into next weekend. To me, Joe, this looks like, with what's going on, you get these June tropical systems. Somebody posted somewhere, and they used the word junky, okay, and
Yeah.
I kind of think that that's where this might wind up going, where it might become technically a tropical storm, and maybe it might become something more than just a minimal tropical storm. But in June, when you get these systems that come out of the Gulf, they oftentimes are big rainmakers and not big wind producers, and they don't often become hurricanes. I think maybe that's where this. I mean, it's kind of an early dissertation here. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's sort of where my feelings are at the moment.
Well, the first of all, if it does get a name, it's going to be Bill. So this will, nothing stands out in my mind about previous times when we've had the B storm or the Bill storm come around. So, and this one, as you alluded to, may not last very long to begin with. But again, we're into this technology now where even the slightest little hint of any kind of tropical activity, maybe a slightest little hint of a warm core, will allow it to get a name, be it tropical or subtropical. But we shall see.
On the radar, as of 11:18 Eastern Time, there's actually a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity already in Pennsylvania, down into western Maryland, from south of Altoona to west of Hagerstown, and points westward to Morgantown in West Virginia. There's a sort of little cluster there, and also again as of 11:18 a.m. Looks like there's a little bit of a developing cell up in northwest New Jersey and in the Catskills, well to the west of Poughkeepsie. So other than that, it is pretty quiet. The storm, everything okay, Mr. Ray? Something strike your fancy?
I'm looking at the chat board, and Chuck Cardillo writes, Joe Rayo, you did a great job covering for your buddy while he cleaned up JJ's vomit.
Like I said,
That's what I'm here for, Chuck. That's what I'm here for.
right, to let other people clean up the vomit. The Storm Prediction Center today actually has some risk. It's kind of funny. I have to mention this. Is that a couple of days ago, Joe? They didn't even have a chance for general thunderstorms anywhere in the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states. I'm not sure why they didn't just run that forecast once. They ran that forecast over the series of a couple of days. I don't know why they did that, but no matter. I'm just asking this sort of general question. But they do.
This is not a knock on. This is not a knock on the and again, I've said this time and time again, that each division of NOAA has their experts in severe weather and hurricanes and long-range forecasting, but the fact is that the earmark of the guys and gals who work at the Storm Prediction Center at Norman, Oklahoma, at least from what I've noticed over the past couple of years, is that they're always seemingly playing catch-up. Exactly, Joe, you said they had nothing, and now they have something in terms of general thunderstorm. And now, look, they even have marginal and slight risk up there.
Right.
They always seem to be, with each day, they always seem to enhance or accentuate or add on to the previous day's forecast. So, yeah, when you see something when I see something, let's say 3 days out, they have general thunderstorm coverage, and you look at the maps and say, well, maybe tomorrow they'll have marginal, or maybe a couple of days they'll have slight. It's always been that way with the folks over at Storm Prediction. It sounds like the dog seems to be getting excited, Joe.
Well, I put him out on the porch so you can. He's on squirrel and rabbit patrol. I didn't want to leave him. I didn't want to leave him in the house up chucking on the carpet. he did it on the wood floor, which is easy to clean, but he is up chumping on the carpet. Hang on one quick second. Just gonna shut my door. I should at least. Oh, so we have a little fun.
Jason Schaefer says, I wonder whatever happened to Winston the Weather Dog during a show. Winston the Weather Dog, I believe, was the name of Dr. Frank Field's dog, which he used to bring on occasionally back in the 70s on Channel 4 in New York, in New York. And in fact, in his autobiography, Frank Field mentioned that he got into a bit of now who would get into a row, or who would get into a big argument with Frank Field, who was next to Walter Cronkite, probably the second most admired and trusted man in broadcasting. But it was on New Year's Eve, or coming up on New Year's Eve one year, and he held up a little tuxedo, and he said that on the night of New Year's Eve, the 11 o'clock show, he was going to bring Winston on dressed in his little tuxedo for New Year's Eve. And supposedly either the station manager, and of course, Joe and I being in the business long enough, we learned to call these gentlemen the station manglers, not the station managers, or maybe it was the news director, pulled Frank Field over and said, so help me, if you bring that dog on one more time, and if you have him wear that tuxedo, you're out of here. I don't care who the hell you are. And so Frank Field sadly had to apologize. Everybody who was waiting to see Winston in his tuxedo, he had to say, I'm sorry, due to circumstances beyond our control, Winston is not able to appear tonight. And but we all remember Winston. I think he was not a bull. Was he a bulldog?
Well, I was a bulldog.
Or a pug. Bulldog or a pug.
I'm
one of those.
I'm going to say he was a bulldog. He did kind of look like Winston Churchill. I think that's why they named him what they did.
It's too bad you're not on Pix 11 anymore, Joe. I'm sure you would love to bring JJ on as the weather dog. And let me tell you something. That immediately that would make not headlines, but it would bring a whole new audience to you, and everybody would be attracted.
Yeah, you know what? There's
JJ.
Yeah, there's a certain person there that would have immediately run upstairs to the general manager and complained, and I would have probably gotten a message saying you're never to bring that dog on air ever again.
Right, just like with Frank Field.
Right.
It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how high in stature you are with the viewers and how popular you are. There's always somebody in the hierarchy who feels that they must make a decision.
This would have come from somebody in, how shall we say, the lowarchy, that would have gone to the
lowarchy,
right,
or whatever.
The person whose head that they had up that person's rear end, and would have.
See, when I was on television, one of my personas was my ties. I used to wear like an American flag tie on national holidays.
Right.
I would wear a space shuttle tie for when there was a space shuttle launch. And everybody knew me for my ties. And there was an assistant news director that came along and told me, starting tomorrow, you're not wearing anything more than just a plain generic tie. You must look presidential. And I said, but the tie is my persona. Everybody loves my ties. They say, I don't give a blankety blank blank what they think. I'm telling you, don't, and don't have to deal with that anymore.
Joe, you can wear any tie you'd like on this show. Bring on any animal. I mean, I'm in my T-shirt and very comfortable. You can do whatever you want. Say whatever you want.
And Mrs. Rayo says that usually your puppy is so good, and the fact that he's barking after he vomited means that he's already better.
I hope so. He hadn't eaten his breakfast. Something was wrong from the get-go this morning because he didn't even touch his breakfast. He wanted to go out. He wanted to go on his walk, which is what we did. And I took him actually out a second time because he was nagging at me. So I took him out a third time. The third time just before the show. We were rummaging through the woods. I don't know. Maybe he ate maybe he ate something that he shouldn't have eaten. And
maybe he ate the grass.
Yeah.
Sometimes my dog used to do that. He used to try to eat the grass or whatever.
Yep. All right. So back to weather. We got severe weather risk today in Pennsylvania, the Southeast Ohio, West Virginia, Northwestern Virginia. You can see it kind of cuts off there. Not too far west of the New Jersey-Pennsylvania border. And I think that sort of makes sense here in terms of the timing and with what's going on, that the coastal plain is probably not going to have to deal with severe weather risk. Now, the funny thing is about tonight's weather system, be it a weak cold front that actually kind of stalls out and becomes a warm front tomorrow. So north and east of New York City, yeah, there's general thunderstorm risk, but there's no severe weather risk. But we do have a marginal risk tomorrow for much of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, down into Virginia and northern North Carolina. So something, we'll have to take a look and see tomorrow whether that area gets warm sectored enough. One of the problems right now, Joe, with what's going on in the east is the fact that we're kind of struggling to get. Remember, last week we had those days where the dew points got above 70. We're really sort of in a position right now where we're sort of struggling trying to push the dew points above 60. And that's going to have an impact on how much thunderstorm development you can get.
Yes, it's exactly as my late car mechanic Dick Landy used to say, it ain't got no juice, Joey. It ain't got no juice. And if we don't have that, as you just mentioned, Joe, if we don't have those 70-plus dew points next couple of days, if you're hoping or looking for some really active convective activity, if it's only going to be near 60, that's marginal. And that might not be enough to push, for but again, you get the stray, strong to severe storm that may pop up in a few places. So we'll see how this all plays out. But we're in line for today, tomorrow, and even on into Tuesday as well. And then once that front goes by later Tuesday, we're in like Flynn, so to speak, for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and maybe even in the start of the weekend with some really nice weather.
Yeah, just here's the map for tomorrow, and you see where the marginal risk is from SPC. And I'll just go back because I didn't have it up for today's risk area, but here it is for from northeastern Kentucky up into southern New York and not quite to western New Jersey. Also want to mention, too, we have a marginal risk in southeast Louisiana, in eastern and southeastern Louisiana, northeast and southeast Louisiana, and central and southern Mississippi. A marginal to slight risk from northeastern New Mexico, northwest Texas, all the way up into western Nebraska. So basically the western part of the southern and central plains. The tornado risk is less than 2% in all areas, so it's really more about wind. As the severe weather season, once we got away from mid-May, it seems like it's mostly, except for the odd day here and there, it has mostly calmed down. And I just want to jump to the day 3 outlook really quick, and we'll take a look at what that has to say. And there's a marginal risk in southeast Virginia, eastern half of North Carolina, and into a small portion of South Carolina down to about Myrtle Beach. And rainfall, now, this is going to really be convectively driven, so there's going to be some variation, and it is also going to be a bit hard to figure out who gets what. There's a general area of a half an inch to an inch plus from central and eastern Kentucky across West Virginia, northern Virginia, then kind of takes all of Pennsylvania through New Jersey and then on up into upstate New York and New England. But you'll notice that WPC's got a few patches there of an inch and a half plus, and that has to be, again, convectively driven. And remember, you've got a weather system for today and tonight. You've got another one for tomorrow, and then the next one after that probably doesn't come until Saturday. So it's inside this 7-day time frame. Also, note where the moisture is in the Gulf Coast, that it looks like it's surging up toward Louisiana, where they've had a lot of rain in the last month. This is all going to be, this is the tropical moisture that is going to be generated by the possible tropical depression or tropical storm that could form, and we'll take a closer look on that in a moment. Meanwhile, I was looking at the GFS today and taking a look at the upper air. I'm bringing it up now, Joe. So it's just going to take a moment to load, but it's not often that you see a trough like this, troughing like this in the eastern part of the United States, where you're strengthening a northwest flow out of Canada. There's a nice looking upper low and short wave that's approaching for tomorrow. Today's is so-so, but tomorrow a stronger short wave. And then the upper low in eastern Canada just amplifies, where the westerly, you have northwest winds in the upper atmosphere almost all the way down to North Florida. And you just don't usually see you don't usually see cold fronts that go that far south in the middle of June. You
Correct.
just don't.
Absolutely. So the folks who live down your way, certainly by the time you get to to Tuesday, you may very well notice a very distinct change, a dramatic change in the dew point temperatures, and making it feel. Look at that, man! Look at that. It's amazing that the flow comes all the way down through Wisconsin and Manitoba, Canada, down into Georgia. For goodness sake, I mean that simply does not happen too often at this time of the year.
I just pulled up the dew points here for Wednesday. Even for Florida, Joe, they got dew points in the low 60s down in South Florida.
Oh God, that's
near Fort Myers is a dew point of 62. Who sees that? My dew points here in Georgia, eastern Alabama, South Carolina, in the 40s on the GFS on Wednesday afternoon. I mean, that's just. I'm looking forward to this. To tell you the truth, I am really looking forward to this. And of course, the bulk of this is going to really push down into the Northeast, where you've got dew points even on Wednesday afternoon, Joe, in the upper 30s. There's this 36 print dew point in northern New Jersey. If you want to call that Newark, you could call it Newark. 36 dew point.
Well, Joe, I think even more than a couple of days out, these dew point maps might sometimes be pushing it a little bit. I certainly will buy into a dew point in the 40s. I've seen that in June. 36, like the people in Missouri, you're gonna have to show me. We'll see if that verifies.
Well, the only thing I will say is, if you're going to get a 36 dew point, you've got the upper air to do it with, because you're going to be deep deep inside that upper trough, and
I believe it.
There's no fooling around with that.
By the way, Leon, thank you, Leon Probinski, for hitting super chats, and his the little animation that's associated with his contribution, Joe, reminds me of the cartoon. Reminds me of the cartoon Peter Potamus. The only thing missing from this cartoon.
And
remember the pit helmet that Peter Potamus used to take?
Right, and so.
Yes.
Wasn't that the part the whatever the other animals?
I think the monkey. It was a monkey.
Monkey. Wasn't it so?
Like a kind of like a Capuchin monkey. I think it's right. So.
And
I was not a big.
The Capuchin monkeys, as opposed to the snub-nosed monkeys of China. That's what that's their I was watching on Saturday. I watched David Attenborough all day long on BBC, and there was a whole thing that they did about the snub-nosed monkey that lives in the mountains of Tibet and in China, and it decides sometimes it comes.
See, I was not a.
Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
was not a big I was not a big Peter Potamus fan.
No, I
I was a
wasn't
McGilla
either.
Gorilla fan. I was a McGilla Gorilla fan, but I was not a
Right.
big Peter Potamus fan.
Yeah, that
And
was.
I'm trying to remember.
What were the cartoon?
And so, yeah.
And so. Well, there was Magilla Gorilla, Peter Potamus. Was there another one that was part of that, group? It seemed to me like
These were now these were Hanna-Barbera cartoons that didn't quite make, like the Flintstones,
Right,
yeah,
right.
or even the Jetsons. But there was McGilla Gorilla, there was Peter Potamus, there was Lippy the Lion. Remember Lippy the Lion?
no that
And Hardy Har Har.
Hardy Har Har rings a bell.
Mel Blanc used to do the voice of Hardy Har Har. Hardy Har Har would never har har. He'd say, "Oh dear, oh me, oh my."
Yes. All right, back to weather. Back to Tuesday's upper air here. Deep
You
upper
see what you
low in
started?
these-
You,
well,
you see what you started there with Leon Pravinsky by picking that one cartoon,
Yes.
that one thing for the super
Oh,
chat. All right.
I shudder to think what Mr. Reuben Fairchild thinks about us discussing this. I mean, just absolutely just shuddering. And yeah, never mind. Let's go. We got the amplitude. That really is the story here. I mean, we've been noting that how much amplitude there is in the pattern. We don't want to ignore the fact that we've got a big, very strong, Joe, almost a 600 upper high sitting in the probably right on the corner where New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, and Utah meet. What is that? Is that Four Corners? Is that what they refer to as
Yeah.
Four Corners?
Yeah.
So
I think so. Yeah.
there's a 600. That's a very, very powerful heat ridge that is building out there in the southwest, and the trough that if you're going to have a strong ridge and that ridge punches up all the way into central Canada, you got to have a deep trough to compensate for that. Fortunately, the trough position is right on the east coast and not to the west, say in the Ohio Valley, because then we'd be sitting here with a southerly flow and talking about rain every day, so we don't have that worry. Once that lifts out, here comes the next one. There's just another upper low that drops down from Canada into northern Hudson Bay. And it's not quite as far south as the one that we're seeing this week, but it does bring those westerly winds in the upper atmosphere into South Carolina and Georgia again, and just rotate and rotate. In the meantime, you can see the reflection of the system in the southwest Gulf, that little circle there, that moves northwest and north, the upper feature. The last night's GFS is a sort of weird thing where it took it toward the Texas coast and then turned it northeastward and strengthened it a little bit as it moved into Louisiana. This is not. I don't think you use models in the standpoint of tropical development right now to come up with any sort of pinpoint place where this thing is going to go. I think the way I described it earlier in the show makes sense. And then, of course, you got another upper trough that swings down, and yet another upper trough that swings down. And guess what? We're at June 29th, and we still have a pattern that at least says, Joe, if it gets hot, if it's going to get very warm, or let's call it borderline hot, it's only going to do it for about one day, because there'll be a cold front ready to just come through and cut any developing heat and humidity right off.
Correct. It's although I must say that a few days ago, the folks at CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, had below normal temperatures along the eastern seaboard for the next 1 to 2 weeks, and now it looks like they have modified their tune just a little, and now are indicating more of a near normal as opposed to below normal pattern for the next week or two. But still, no sign of any extreme heat, like it just what we went through last week into the beginning of this past week, with extreme heat and temperatures in the 90s and everything else. Nothing like that, at least in the foreseeable future.
Well, this time of year, it's dew points that matter, not so much the temperature. I mean, if the temperature runs a little bit above normal, as long as you got a reasonable dew point, I don't think there's going to be too much complaining about that. NHC with that system is now, guys, a 50% probability of it developing in the next 5 days, which I think is perfectly reasonable considering what the models are doing and what we're seeing. I'm going to bring up a loop of the Gulf of Mexico. Let me see if I can find a nice GIF here. And let's just see if we could do what we could. No, that's the Atlantic view. I'm not doing that one. Hold on a second. Let's do the Gulf of Mexico. Let's look at the water vapor loop and see what that is telling us here. If we can gather any clues. And it is loading. You know, oftentimes when you look at these things, we like to use the water vapor imagery loop because we can pick out where the moist air is versus where the dry air is. And you'll notice that up in the central and northern Gulf at the moment, except for what's off the coast of southeast Louisiana, there's that kind of little band of dry air that runs east to west. It actually heads southeastward toward the Florida Keys. But the southwestern Gulf is rather saturated. Nothing organized here at this moment. No, everything's sort of. You see these thunderstorms that are trying to develop. As a little bit of the tops are still getting blown off away to the northeast, but there's no downright super upper shear condition here that's going to inhibit development in the longer term. But there's a little bit of that going on now, which is probably the reason why you're not going to see anything come out of this for at least another 3 or 4 days. And I'll bring up this is the 6C GFS run. There isn't enough of a new one to really go. It doesn't go out far enough at this point. I want to bring up that. Where is it? The 200 to 850 wind shear. So let's take a look at that. That's always useful. No, wrong map. Hold on. Sorry about that. 200. There we go. That's what the 5-day average is. I don't want to look at that one. I like to look at the current one. Letting the maps load, Joe. It always takes time.
Well, would you rather lean over the NAFAX and wait for the map to come out one line
No,
at
you
a
get
time?
yeah, and you have to do that with your head upside down too.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I just jumped to Wednesday. You still have some fairly strong wind shear in the Southwest Gulf on Wednesday. And here we go. Now you start to see that 78 hours, 84. There's a trough that's trying to drop down along the Texas coast through all of this. Yeah, this probably does not have the signature of a tropical system that you normally see in August. There's probably a little bit of not subtropical action because there is some dry air that's going to be to the northwest. It does manage to develop a low here. You can see how it takes it up towards the Texas coast. But I would say this is probably not ideal in terms of favorable conditions for tropical cyclone development. There's a lot of shear around. There's a small area near the southern part of the Gulf of Southwest Gulf where it does tend to relax a little bit, but I don't know. We'll probably have to come back to this as we go through the week. It's still a little bit too early to really gain any kind of feel for it. The one thing I will say is we're going to keep getting these troughs down in the eastern part of the United States. It's possible that the moisture from this thing could eventually run up into the Gulf states and maybe into the southeastern part of the U.S. in the longer term. But as far as coming up the East Coast with the moisture, because that's what it would be if you get some of that moisture to get drawn up the eastern seaboard. It's hard to see how that could happen with a northwest flow that's dominating in the eastern part of the United States.
No, it would just cut. It would, if you don't mind the expression, it would cut it off at the knees, so to speak. Mm-hmm. There's no way to bring that moisture up with that kind of an airflow, Joe. Especially when you're talking about an airflow from Manitoba to Georgia.
Yeah,
there ain't no way to be able to have that moisture come all the way up and penetrate that. So.
All right, so let's do a little Briller Jeopardy and then enjoy the rest of our Sunday. The chairman is taking care of his mom today. She's getting X-rays. She has been putting off knee surgery, And I just, I always you sort of say kidding around because I know so many people that have had their knees done. Just basically, it's like going to Home Depot now, and they put you up on the rack. Somebody does your knees, and then you're done. You're finished. So anyhow, we wish you
Now, is this
both
for,
wish you well, and at the doctor's today.
now is this Mrs. Rayo's
It's
Jeopardy? Or is
Mrs.
this...
Rayo, yes.
Hello, dear. Can you hear us up there? She's probably watching
Fred
on
and
her iPad.
Ethel.
Maybe she'll do a commercial for Phipps.
When we go on shopping trips, where else do we go but Phipps? Up.
Phipps.
You're on a delay. Up from the top floor to the bottom. If it's bargains, Phipps has got 'em. Down at Phipps, your credit's great. Ask for a Phipps, charge a plate. First on your list of shopping tips. PHIPPS Phipps.
Hi, you should have.
Hi,
jumped
Mrs.
in.
Rayo.
Hello.
How are
Oh,
you,
you're taking
dear?
your chair. Okay, just fine. Okay. All right.
So today,
So,
by the way, I have a pot of sauce on the stove, which I cooked yesterday, and I actually threw a chuck roast in there, and I let it boil for about an hour and a half last night, and I tasted some of it. It's good. It tenderizes the meat. It basically falls apart. So I can't wait to have it for dinner later on. So today, the chairman, Scott Briller, has left us the 10 top-selling candies in America. Okay, and it's made up
right.
of both chocolate and non-chocolate candies. Okay, here's a hint. These did not make the top 10, so it'll give you a little bit of help. Milky Way, Butterfinger, which I love Butterfingers, and Starburst.
okay.
And baseball rules apply, so you have 3 errors in hand. Okay.
Let's see. Okay. I think somewhere at the tops of the list has to be a Snickers bar.
Number 4 is a Snickers bar, correct. So there were 3 others that are ahead of the Snickers bar.
Ahead of that, okay. Maybe just the old classic of a Hershey's milk chocolate bar.
Number 3, the Hershey's candy bar is number 3.
Oh, and to go along that same vein, how about M&M's?
M&M's is number 1.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Number 1. So there's still a number 2 in there. Okay. Well, Twizzlers get
Twizzlers.
a lot of
Yeah, I don't like Twizzlers at all. Number 7.
No, I don't either. Number 7.
Number
Okay.
7.
And they probably are referring to the red stuff. And I like real licorice personally. But anyway, let's see. Okay, so what else is at the top of the list? Kit Kat bar.
Number 5.
Okay. Kit Kat bar.
So you have 10, 9, 8, 6, and 2. Still to guess.
Yeah, okay, I still got a pile of them to go. Okay. You said no Milky Way bar. Okay, so yeah, what else is there? Well, all right. My favorite probably is not at the top of the list. So, but I'll just say my favorite is Mounds.
No, that Mounds did not make the list, so that is your first strike.
Or how about, to go along the same vein, maybe that's more popular, Almond Joy?
That did not make the list. So you now have 2 strikes. Let's
Reese's
work.
Peanut Butter Cup.
There
has
you
to be
go.
there, 'cause that's
Yes.
that's actually on my coffee table right now. I
that
should've
is
said
that
first.
that's number 2. No, yeah, that's number 2. Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. In fact, it reminded me of the
Okay,
commercial when we were kids. Was you've got the two people bumping into each other. One was eating chocolate, one was eating peanut butter, and the person would say, "You got peanut butter on my chocolate," and the other person, "You got chocolate on my peanut butter." Okay, so now we have. So basically, we have six, number 6, number 8, number 9, and number 10 left.
4 more left.
All right. I will just say that
Okay.
well, okay.
How many candies are left?
Uh,
Tell me.
okay. One of them is a candy.
Okay.
The other,
So,
one of them is a candy. Two of them are mostly chocolate bars, and one is, I think, I've never had one, so I'm not 100% sure of what it. I don't know how else. I don't know how to describe it.
okay.
I mean,
never
all right.
mind.
I do know how to describe it. Okay, it might be considered as much a cookie as it is a candy.
Okay. I mentioned Kit Kats already.
Yes,
Right. Okay. Okay. Anyway. All right. So,
and
I'm
you only
gonna
have one.
say
You have only one strike left, by the way.
Skittles is gotta be
Number 8 is Skittles.
yes. Okay. Um. Twix.
Number 6. That's the one I guess was as much a cookie as anything else.
Yeah.
A
My
Twix.
son really loves
6.
those,
Number Twix. So now you just have 9 and 10. One of them
Okay,
is
9 and 10.
one of them is I'll give you I would say one of them comes from the same family that is of products that a Snickers bar is. In some ways, it's like a Snickers bar, but in other ways, it's not.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
In literature, there are 3 of them.
Oh. Um. In literature, there are 3 of them. Okay, trilogy? No. I have no idea.
In
Um.
classic literature, there are 3 of them.
Oh my god. I. I haven't got. I haven't
In
got
the
it. I
aura
haven't gotten
of
it.
in the aura of the time of, let's say, Robin Hood, or a little after Robin Hood.
I have no idea.
All right.
I'm
Well, let's
blank.
work. Let's
Any. All
let's
right.
work at the other one.
You know what? You know what comes to mind is, but this is really plain chocolate. I was gonna say Hershey's Kisses.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's not it. But I'm not going to count that as a strike because you're just sort of thinking out loud.
There are other.
Um, so
um.
there. Okay, let's let
You'll
hold.
see them in a minute.
Let,
Anyway,
let's go to the
there
other
are
one.
other candies
Yeah,
that I
let's
know
go to
that
the
should
other
be on
one.
the top of the list.
Let's go to the other one. The other one is probably not a candy that kids would. This is more of an. I think this was much more of an adult indulgence,
Adult.
and it is. Let's say I could envision a commercial of a woman having a tough day and wanting to just relax with something chocolatey. I can with if I were to
This is from the commercial.
well, I would design this
Oh,
in.
what are those Ghirardelli like chocolate
No, wrong brand.
chocolates
Wrong
with
brand.
caramel in it?
Let's
Wrong.
the symbol of peace, the international symbol of peace.
International symbol of peace. Yeah, I know what.
What
Got nothing.
what bird is the international symbol of peace?
Dove. Dove.
The Dove bar.
The bars.
I was surprised to
Dove
see the
bars.
Dove bar on the list. Okay, so now we've got one.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a bag. We got a bag of those too upstairs that we still haven't eaten. Those little Dove, but they're Dove just plain, more or less plain chocolates.
Right.
But anyway,
All right. So you got
okay.
that
And
one
then, well,
left.
I didn't mention the Milky Way.
At the beginning, I said the Milky Way did not make the list. The Butterfinger did not make the list.
Did not make the
It's
list.
kind of.
There's also Mars.
It's actually.
There's a Mars bar.
No, it's actually kind of like a Milky Way bar. It's kind of like one.
Oh my gosh.
I know you know this.
I'm sure it's kind of like a Milky Way bar.
Okay, in literature there would be three.
Just give it to me.
No, in literature.
You're gonna prolong my agony.
Yes, in classic literature, there are three swashbucklers.
Pirates. Three Musketeers.
Yes, thank you. Glory, hallelujah. Musketeer, the Musketeers bar.
Joe can't hear any of this because he doesn't. Next time you gotta take the headphones off the system. Okay. Anyway, all right.
Have a great Sunday.
So that was fun. Okay.
Have a great
enjoy
Sunday.
your wonderful ragu, and Mr. Rayo is going to switch seats with me again. You ready? Yeah. You can. Yeah. Just switch like this. Adios.
All right. Adios. The frog, see?
I got to tell you something. When I was at News 12, I was known at News 12 by the people in the newsroom as Mr. Pickle. Every night, as I was heading out the door and had to go through the newsroom to go out, I would have a pickle in my mouth. and I was,
the frog. Well, it's time for say goodbye. So we'll see everybody tomorrow. Hey, what's the schedule for this week? What's your issues?
I think we're pretty regular
time?
shtick. Because now that the eclipse is gone and is gone into history, let me just make sure here. Now tomorrow's what, the 14th of June? Flag Day, by the way, folks. Flag Day. Remember that. I have one talk, and that's at East Providence Library. Yes, that's in Rhode Island at 6. So that means I should be ready to go at 7:30. So we're back on a regular schedule this week, Joe, and for a number of weeks to come.
Okay. So see everybody tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And hopefully my dog is okay. I got to go check on him. So take care, everybody. Goodbye. So long.
Yeah. Goodbye. Yeah.